nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. My name is Kylie Brightsman, and I'm the current president of the League. Tonight's forum features candidates who are running for District 1 County Commissioner, District 3 County Commissioner, and Latah County Sheriff. All candidates in contested races have been invited to participate in our forum and have agreed to the ground rules, which are set by the League of Women Voters Organization. Our event tonight will be moderated by Lauren Finns, who is a Professor Emerita of the University of Idaho Department of Forest, Rangeland, and Fire Sciences, and is also a current board member for the League. Questions have been gathered by email in advance of the event, and we will also be collecting questions throughout the evening. Questions cannot be called from the floor, but will instead always be read by our moderator. Please feel free to take an index card and submit your questions to candidates. League members will collect the questions, so just hold up your index card and they will deliver them to our moderator. The League reserves the right to review and select questions for appropriateness and to avoid duplication. So we'll have people from the League with cards and questions. If you need a card, just hold up your hand. If you need your card collected, just hold up your hand and they will organize them in the back. And Rhonda here has plenty of cards if you need them. Our format is as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then we'll move to the audience questions where candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. We'll then conclude with closing statements where each candidate will have 1 minute. Throughout the evening, when allotted time expires, candidates will be allowed to finish their sentence before the timer indicates that their time is up. And for our candidates, our timers are right here in front, and they'll be holding up signs. To maximize time for candidates to respond to questions and give their statements throughout the evening, we ask that all of you withhold your applause until the end of our event. Because of the number of candidates and the amount of time we have available, we want to recognize that this is just the beginning of our conversation to introduce candidates to our community. If you have additional questions, we encourage you to reach out directly to the candidates, and many of them can also stay after and answer questions in the back. So we have the space reserved until 9 if you want to chat with them after the forum officially concludes. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Kylie. I want to add my welcome to all of you who've come tonight to hear our candidates, and to all of our candidates for being here this evening, and to the League for hosting this event. So let me just introduce our candidates. To my left, your right, Tony Johnson, Mark Thorne, John Bowman, Jason Stokes, and to my right, Dan Foreman. No, sorry, wrong. So sorry. I read too far down on my list. Sorry. Well, there you go.
Right, yeah.
All right, James Fry, Chris Middleton, and Richie Smiles. My apologies. All right, so let's start out with opening statements from our county commissioner candidates, and we'll start with Tony. And you have 2 minutes, Tony.
Okay, test, it's on. Okay, my name is Tony Johnson. I am a lifetime resident of Latah County, 4th generation. I graduated from Moscow High School in 1974. Attended 2 years of college down at Northwest Nazarene College and studied business. I worked in the family business, my family business, for 25 years with my dad in the trucking and excavation business. And then for the next 25 years after I bought him out, back in 1998, I owned it for 25 years. And then in May of this year, my wife sold the business. So I came home from work and said, hey, we're all done working. I go, well, we get paid? I said, well, not yet. But I got up the next morning, she's holding up the cell phone, she goes, look at the bank account. Okay, it's looking pretty good. So anyway, 50 years of a family business, and overnight, it closed the books on that. I've served 6 years on Moscow City Council from 94 to 2000. I am currently serving on the Planning Commission. I am chair of the Planning Commission. So I've got 16 years of public service. And for a commissioner, experience is a big deal. And so I think that should go a long ways in your thought process as you vote. Some of the things we did on Moscow City Council, we did the Hamilton Low Aquatic Center, we did improvements on the wastewater treatment plant, numerous subdivisions, we improved Mountain View Road, Oak Tourist Business Park. I was vice president of City Council, I was president of the City Council. I currently live in the suburbs of Viola, and some of my passions are my road bike. I run a Harley, and some of my antique cars I like taking to car shows. And some of the things I would like to see done as a commissioner, number one is get a drug dog. I think that is very important. I believe I need to quit right now, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. So I neglected to say that Tony is running for county commissioner for the 1st district. It's a 4-year term. Oh. All right, my notes are incorrect.
It's kind of like Dan Foreman.
We're going to edit that out. And Mark, you are also running for the 1st district.
District 1, yes.
Yeah. Okay, you're on.
All right, thank you. Good evening. I'm Mark Thorne. I'm running to serve you on the county commission. I want to thank you for taking your time out of your busy lives to come out tonight to this event. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us the opportunity to exchange our information and answer questions. I guess I'm supposed to talk closer. I'm running for county commissioner because community has always been important to me. The rural area where I grew up was a place where neighbors, like you, cared about each other and were always willing to help each other. Latah County is that kind of caring community. I grew up and worked on a farm near a smaller town than Moscow in Northeast Oregon. As a young man, I left the farm to enhance my experience as a farmer with an education in agriculture on natural resources. My degrees focused on crop science, soil science, animal sciences, and natural resources. All that knowledge I will bring to the county commission. I've lived on the Palouse for 20 years, and I work at Washington State University doing research in the crop and soil sciences department. Here are the issues that I see important to maintain better quality life in Latah County. Protecting our farmland while providing affordable housing. Water. I want to make sure we have enough good quality water for us to thrive. Providing funding for uninterrupted vital county services. And finally, the availability of health care for everyone. So what I bring, small town values and experience, extensive knowledge in agriculture and natural resources, research, problem solving, budgetary, and collaboration skills. I look forward to answering your questions and giving you more information about myself, what I will bring to the county commission to serve you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mark. All right, next we have John Bowman, who is running for county commissioner for 3rd district, and I'm not going to venture to say how long that term is, since I don't know. That one's the 4-year. Okay, all right. John?
Thank you, and thank you, each and every one of you for being here tonight and participating in this thing that we call democracy. It's reset the timer. I was just told that the battery's going to die because the red light was on, but let me see, go back. So thank you again for being here. Thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to talk with you tonight and kind of tell you our story. I'm a lifelong Latah County resident. My grandfather immigrated from Sweden in 1914 and bought the farm in 1917. And I'm the 3rd generation, and I got the 4th generation. My daughter is going to finish U of I here this May, and her plans are to come out and kick Dad out of the tractor, I think. So public service has really never been on my bucket list, and I was asked by a number of people from Latah County to do it. And I says, why? And they said, you have that calm demeanor, that you think through a lot of situations very well, and you're not quick to make a quick decision. So I reluctantly put my name in the hat and was elected 2 years ago. I've been honorably serving as your Latah County Commissioner from residing in District 3 for the last 20 months, and it's been some of the best 20 months I've ever spent. We're working currently now on the broadband project to try to incorporate some of these rural cities and give them the vital resource of the internet that everybody needs to run a business, educate themselves, and have some of that vital healthcare needs that are out there. We're also working, like Mark said, water is a big project, and we look at the water rights that are given out there, and we want to make sure that we limit that a little bit to make sure people have what they need, but there's enough there for people to come. So these are just some of the little things that I've been working on the last 20 years. It's been a great time for me to develop these relationships with the incredible staff that we have at Latah County. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, John. And our next speaker is Jason Stokes, who's running for the same office, County Commissioner for the 3rd District.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Stokes, as she said. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. Thank you, the League of Women Voters, for putting on this event. Thank you, the other candidates, for attending, and all the guests. Thank you for taking the time to come and hear us speak about who we are. A little about myself. I've been married for 17 years. My wife, Stacy, who works at the University of Idaho. We have a daughter that moved with us when we moved in August of 20. I grew up in a rural community like Viola in upstate New York. I have a diverse work background. I worked in accounts payable, worked for a company that was a Fortune 500 company. I oversaw the expenses of 120 offices across the nation. I worked for another company doing accounting, project accounting internationally. So that was a project, the Atlantis project that's out in Dubai. I was working on that project, doing project management. I've done air conditioning. I've done, customer service. A lot of this job is interacting with the community, finding out what their needs are and how to better serve them. One of my main issues is grant funding. I graduated out of the U of I with my bachelor's in criminology with an emphasis in emergency management. I'm Latah County's Community Emergency Response Team Deputy Program Manager. That role is to help facilitate groups like the sheriff, fire, EMS in disasters or emergencies. So things like the jail, that's really important. There's grant funding that's out there. Drug dog is important. There's grant funding that is out there. So making sure that we're doing everything we can to have the money to support our community.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jason. All right, turning to our other office that we would like to fill, the Office of Sheriff. James, can you give your presentation?
Thank you. I'm not Dan Foreman, but I am James Fry. A little bit about me. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and for everybody showing up tonight. It is very important. I've been married 33 years. I have 4 kids. And I've spent the last 29 years in law enforcement, with the last 8 as your chief of police. It was an honor to serve during that time. And during that time, I had 3 governor's appointments, one to the School Safety and Security Board, which is very important. We need to protect our schools from the violence that's out there. I was also on the Idaho Post Council, and I was the chair of the decertification board. When law enforcement messes up, that board looks at them to make sure that whether or not they need to be a law enforcement officer anymore. And I was also on the governor's opioid advisory committee. So we gave advisement to the governor on how we can stop the opioid problem coming into our state, coming into our communities. We've had over 40 people die from opioid overdoses. We do need a drug dog. We do need some things. We need forensic detectives. We know that from our last case that we worked, and Latah County is a full-time one of those. So some things I'm going to be working on with that, but I also want to work with the communities. These rural communities, we do need to work with them to create a community policing philosophy out there. I hear a lot of things from the community members about they want to see the deputies more. They want them to get out of the cars and talk more, and we're going to work on some of that. I think we got great deputies in our agencies, and we need to just continue to push them and educate them so that they're further along in their experience to do better and do more for our communities. So, as I said, I'm not Dan Foreman, I'm James Fry. Maybe we look a little bit alike, but I want you to know that I'm very cool and calm, and I'll stay that way.
Thank you, James. I'm never going to live that down, am I? Our next candidate is Chris Middleton. Chris, got 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Chris Middleton. I am running for sheriff, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to actually speak. I haven't been able to speak a whole lot other than through social media. It's kind of hard to follow him. I do have 15 years of law enforcement experience. I was a former Idaho State Trooper for 10 years. Of that, I was a sergeant for 7 years. I managed three different teams, very successful teams at that time. I'm well trained in everything that law enforcement needs, from emergency management all the way down to arresting, citing, whatever it is you need. But as far as my qualifications go, I have a degree in education. I'm a former educator as well. I got a degree from Whitworth College in Spokane. I'm a former collegiate athlete. One of my primary focuses as a deputy sheriff, I was actually a Latah County deputy sheriff from 2008 to 2013. My primary focus was school resource as well as community liaison officer. Through that, I gained a perspective that, unfortunately, I believe could be a better answer than the status quo of drug interdiction. Now, we still need those things, and I'm going to be working on those things and pushing for those things. However, in my opinion, community collaboration, an overall effort through combined teamwork through the sheriff's office, using the tools, the assets that we already have that I believe are being underutilized in order to reach more kids from ages 3rd grade to 8th grade. Those are the most prime years where I had the most effect. And I'm going to be focusing on that. I've visited with every city council already during this campaign with the exception of Bowville and Moscow. And every single one of them had the same thing to say. They want more for what they're getting, for what they're paying for. Okay? They want more. They want to have more relationship. They want more information. And I discussed all those things with them. We talked about the jail issue. We talked about all those things. Okay? Those things will all be addressed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And last but not least, our current sheriff, Richie Skiles. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. 2 minutes is going to be tough. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to be here and set this up and talk, and everybody who has taken time to come out, because we all have busy schedules, and so I do appreciate it very much. I am your sheriff. I've been your sheriff for 2 terms now, which is 8 years almost. I was born in Moscow. I married my high school sweetheart, who is here somewhere, right here in front. And we have 1 son who's an Idaho State Trooper. We're very proud of him. I served honorably in the United States Marine Corps. And I want to say a few things that we've accomplished at the Sheriff's Office. When I took office, there was not 24-hour coverage, and I implemented 24-hour coverage right away. Deputies got off at 3 a.m. in the morning, didn't come back on until 7. It was really important to me. That was one of the first things I did, to get 24-hour coverage, because the people of Latah County deserve that. 8 years ago, I promised to be a working sheriff. I believe in leading by example. You'll see me out helping the deputies. You'll see me on a traffic stop. You'll see me helping the deputies with calls and things like that. And I've even been known to change a flat tire once in a while. We have just got a $350 grant issued to us for transparency and accountability. So we have new body cameras and new cameras in our cars. I have a good relationship with the Quad Cities Drug Task Force, and I've had 3 deputies work on that since I've taken office, but sometimes they get married and move away, unfortunately. Thank you to Genesee, who applied for a grant. I have 2 school resource deputies now, 1 full-time down at Genesee, and that allows the deputy, John Paradis, that I have for school resource now, to spend more time in the other schools. I have a part-time ICAC deputy who does internet crimes against children. And some of the things that we do, we serve papers. I have 57 employees. We maintain and operate a jail 24/7, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I was going to go down the list. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so all of our candidates have introduced themselves. Some of you have submitted questions in advance, and there were some duplicates. So I think I'll start with that for our county commissioner candidates. People are concerned about housing, affordable housing. So how might the county be able to support attainable, affordable housing? And why don't we start with Tony, and we'll go down the line. And you have 2 minutes to answer.
Okay, I'm out of the construction trade, and affordable housing, the term is kind of an oxymoron. You're gonna ask contractors to cut their price, you're gonna ask subs to cut their price, business people to cut their price to make housing affordable. Well, they can't stay in business and do that. But I do have an idea. I read in Forbes with Mr. Zuckerberg on page 82 that the billionaires in America would like to be able to disperse their funds, and they have a lot of them, under a 501c4 not-for-profit. And what that does, it allows them to give their money to, I will call it Affordable Housing Commission, for lack of a better term, under this 501c4, to give that money tax-free, and the recipients get to use that money tax-free. Now, that's just an idea. I read one that's down at Les Schwab, and it's about a 2-paragraph article in there, but it's an idea on how to fund other than going after government money. Our federal government is broke. We're $40 trillion in the hole. So if we ask them for funds to build houses, it's only worsening another problem. So you can't take a bad problem and try to fix another bad problem. Let's run with the billionaires to start with. I've got 500 of them listed in here that are more than willing to help, but we just have to have an extraordinary business plan, people that want to get into the not-for-profit business but still make a decent living. We have a couple of them in town. We have Habitat for Humanity that does an excellent job. We have Carl Johnson and can't think of the other gentleman, but they are currently doing and trying to work on this problem.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Well, as many of you know, Idaho has become a destination state, and Latah County has become a destination county within a destination state. So market values have skyrocketed. The idea of going back to a $200,000 3-bedroom home is not going to happen if we stay with a market approach. But currently, there's 3 options that we can use. One is currently being explored by the current District 1 County Commissioner, Kathy LaFortune, and that's developing a housing authority. And housing. So the county commission would essentially, John knows more about it than I do, but would start or put in place the people to run the housing authority. The housing authority has the power to acquire, construct, operate property, expend and repay funds. Housing authorities can also lease, rehabilitate, and sell property. There's already in Idaho now in 6 counties, there's already 6 housing authorities in the state of Idaho. There's 2 in Boise, 1 in Napa, 1 in Caldwell, and 1 up towards Sun Valley. I can't remember the name. But anyway, it's interesting that and there's different options they can go about, but they're in charge then of creating the structure for affordable housing. In Boise, Ada County, they have subsidized housing, they have supportive housing for people that are just unhoused, and they have market rate housing. The other options are housing cooperatives, and these have been used for mobile home parks, where the owners, the people in the park actually own they're the stockholders, And the third one, of course, is what Mills Peterson is doing with the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust. These are options that we can use. It will require money to come in, but I think we can work on it.
All right. Thank you, Mark. John, want to address that?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, thank you. Mark touched on, we've seen the median household value in Latah County go from like 250,000 to 450,000. I got a daughter graduating from college here this May, and I'm having a kind of wondering how she's going to afford to start her home. And I think we need to maybe get past that being just a kind of everybody has to have a starter home. And Mark touched on the affordable. The Housing Authority and our District 1 commissioners out in Bowlville right now presenting the possibility that we can form this authority. Once the commissioners form it and we appoint the initial commission or the people on that, we're done with it. We allow them, they're a separate operating entity, and we can't influence or won't influence them. But it gives us as county commissioners about the only the opportunity to try to address that. They can buy, they can sell properties, they can, like Mark said, rehabilitate them. And it's a mechanism that they can start going and getting grant money. They can get people to give the money to them, and they can have people give them property. It also allows if the rest of the rural cities within the county are together, they can say, hey, I got property owned by the city, we will donate it to the Housing Authority so that we could possibly have a lower cost in building some housing units for people. And I think we need to kind of think out of the box too. There's been talk about tiny homes. There's been talk about the manufactured home places that you can get a 2-bedroom unit for $100,000, which is a lot cheaper than a $460,000 3-bedroom home. So I think the discussions need to happen, and there's a lot of things out there that people have great ideas, and they need to come to the commission or the Housing Authority if we so choose to form that. So I look for your guys' ideas.
All right. Thank you, John. Jason?
Thank you. Yeah, affordable housing is, like Tony said, it's kind of odd to say that because what's affordable for one person is not affordable for another person. We moved here, my wife and I and our daughter, in the hopes of, getting our forever home. And that is completely out of reach for us right now because of the prices. Tony has a great idea. If you have billionaires that want to get rid of their money, why not use it for our community to have homes? If we have the Housing Authority, how are they paid? Do they get paid by the grant funding, or are they paid employees of the county? That's something to think about. How are they going to get the initial startup money? We're going to have to use Tony's idea probably to get that startup money, or is it going to come out of our county budget? I spent a lot of time going over budgets. I've gone line by line of the county budget currently. Inflation has caused a lot of spikes in that. But if we're going to start looking to purchase properties in these outlying communities, we're going to have to pay that money unless we have stakeholders that get involved. So it's definitely an important topic. I think Tony has a really good idea. If you have people willing to give money away, why not take it? If we start going with grant funding, especially from the federal government, they may hold it over our head for other purposes. So that's kind of my take on that.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our sheriff candidates. So we have a question. Some of you addressed this already, but you may want to expand on it. With evolving drug laws, how will you change enforcement policy if Idaho changes marijuana laws? Example, drug dog that's used to smell for marijuana. So let's start with James.
Thank you for the question. So when Moscow got their drug dog, our drug dog did not sniff for marijuana. It sniffed for heroin, it sniffed for methamphetamine, and for fentanyl. So you can train a dog to not sniff for certain drugs. And I believe that the drugs that are killing our people in our communities are the ones that we're going after with our dog. And I would continue to do that. If the law changes in Idaho, we have to abide by that law. Whether we agree with it or not, we still have to abide by the law, and we have to follow through with that as law enforcement. So, like I said, when we were getting our drug dog, we came to the agreement that we wanted to take the dog and use him to be able to get the dangerous drugs out of our communities. And we know that these drugs are killing people, they're ruining lives, they're ruining families, they're ruining our communities. But I think there's also another piece you have to throw in there. I sat on the Latah County Drug Court for the last 2 years, and we also have to help these people try to get off their addiction, try to help them to where that they can be a part of our community again, work with the recovery center, and try to help take care of them so they become back into the community, and they're a working group that helps those who are also struggling with these drug problems. So definitely I want the drug dog, and I definitely want to be stopping those dangerous drugs that are killing our community members.
All right, thank you, James. Chris, 2 minutes?
Okay, first of all, we've been battling a drug problem in this country for 60 years, okay, or longer. And we throw more and more money at it every year, and every year it grows. Why? Because we don't focus on the issue. The issue isn't the drugs. The drugs are going to be here. Okay, we're going to fight to get them off the street as much as possible. That's not going to change. But until we start taking away their customers, they're going to continue to flood. Because every drug dealer you take off the street, he's back on the street, and there's 3 more to help him. Okay, I'm not saying that it's an unsolvable problem, but the way we've been going about it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in and of itself. Under my leadership as a sheriff, I would be concentrating on really trying to emphasize taking away those customers, that age group, 3rd grade to 8th grade years. They're very formative years where kids need to understand conflict resolution. They need to understand how they can change their lives with regards to, I don't have to do what my mom and dad do. I don't have to do what my friends do. Okay? But that doesn't mean we don't need a drug dog. However, I will say this. What Mr. Fry said about his dog in Lewiston just recently, a dog that was trained on nothing but narcotics has trained itself to hit on marijuana. Okay, so now that dog is completely useless. Okay, if they legalize marijuana in Idaho. Okay, my personal opinion, yes, we need a dog. I believe I agree with Mr. Fry that it needs to be a narcotics dog. However, I think there needs to be 2 dogs, not 1. You need a narcotics dog, and you need an apprehension dog that is also trained as a dual-purpose dog that you can train on marijuana. And then once marijuana gets legalized, you still have a dog that's useful. Okay, you don't have a tool that has to be put out to pasture. Okay, because those dogs are expensive. The average dog is about $10,000. The training for the officers, another $10,000, and the maintenance on that is the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Richie, 2 minutes?
Thank you. The drug dog is definitely an issue. I believe you can train the dog on 3 cents, which would be heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine, and just leave marijuana off the table if we end up getting the dog after that law changed. I know for a fact that I've had actual criminals that you actually build some kind of relationship with. Benawah County has a dog, Lewiston has a dog, ISP had a dog there for a while, I'm not sure if they still do. So we did have some issues where people would come to Latah County, like the north part of Latah County, the rest area, because they knew Latah County didn't have a dog. I have a German Shepherd at home, and I almost started driving around with my own dog in the back seat, so somebody goes, "They got a dog." And so it would just deter, that the dog honestly just deters some of that crime, it just does. And then the bonus is, besides the deterrent, is actually getting some of the drugs off the streets so our children are safer. So it is definitely something that we need, and partly too, getting them trained, getting people to the recovery center and getting them off the addiction would be awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's go back to our county commissioners. We got this question this evening. With all the development in our area, what are plans for water in our future? So we've addressed affordable housing, but then water certainly goes along with that. And we'll start with Tony.
Okay, are we talking city of Moscow, are we talking county residents? Can somebody clarify?
Well, since the question was addressed to the commissioners, I'm assuming it would be the county.
County. Well, you drill a well and you hope you get water. Depends on what reservoir or aquifer you tap into. If you tap in on the south side of Moscow, you're going to tap into the, I believe it's the Ground Braun. There's quite a bit of water over there. You get on my side of the mountain, it's pretty sketchy. I've got a 5 gallon a minute well, so I had to put in a 2,200 gallon holding tank. There's a lot of water underneath us, but we don't know how much. You know, I can't wave a magic wand and tell you, yeah, there's billions of gallons under there. A lot of wells go dry. My son owns Strom Electric, and they have a pump company there, and they are constantly replacing wells because, yeah, wells go dry. So I'm really not sure how to answer the question.
Yeah, we had 2 questions that way, and both addressed to the county commissioners. So just
Can you repeat the question? Because I'm thinking these guys are going to want it too.
okay. With all the development in our area, what are the plans for water in our future?
There are none.
Would you have some if you
I'm
were
not
elected?
going to, well, no. It's because now you're going to be treading on property rights. And I'm not going to take those rights away. If they buy property and they have a building permit, they have a right to drill a well.
Fair enough. Okay, Mark?
Good luck.
Okay, well, the aquifer situation is kind of interesting. There's the Palouse Basin aquifer consists of a shallow end, which is mostly granite. Granite doesn't hold much water unless it's fractured. And then it consists of a deep zone, which is basalt. Basalt does a really good job of holding water. That aquifer has been declining ever since water well, apparently artesian wells in the beginning, and then as soon as water was started to pump, that aquifer has been declining. But there's been a concerted effort in both Moscow and Pullman to enact conservation principles, and that has slowed the rate of decline, and that's important. So there's that, and I'm sure they're going to continue to work to do that. In fact, I know that's in the plan. There's also, and this is maybe controversial, but PBAC, the Palouse Basin Aquifer Commission, is already looking into, well, if we need to bring water in, where are we going to bring that water from? So that's something that's on the table, and maybe something that has to occur. And they'll have to decide that, and so forth. I do know that water systems, like an area we live in. We lived in Southeast Ohio for a number of years, and the water there, the wells were so bad with iron and sulfur that you couldn't drink the water, and so there was regional water districts systems that would pump water all over the rural parts of Athens and Meigs County. So there is ways to do it, but we just have to decide how much involvement and how much conservation and what where we want to go with this as a community, as a county.
All right, thank you. John?
The PBAC, or the Palouse Basin Aquifer Commission Committee, they're the ones that have been doing a lot of this for a long time because we have 2 major cities over that aquifer, and those cities have done a great job of slowing down the depletion of those aquifers. But us as a county commissioners, we've made it a kind of a rule with us that if somebody applies for a water right in rural Latah County, the Idaho Department of Water Resources say, hey, go ahead and go for 0.04 cubic feet per second. Don't get lost in the weeds on that. And then for irrigation, and then for livestock. And we try to, we protest those ones if they're above 0.02 cubic feet per second. And that equates to about 13,000 gallons a day. So what we want to do is we want to talk about the conversation of why do you need all this water? Because Idaho Department of Water Resources wants you to apply for as much as you can. They come back in and do a pump assessment or a well assessment, and then they give you an actual value. But we see this problem happening in South Idaho with the deep wells with agriculture down there. And they're talking about adjudication at first in time, first in right. And we are trying to address this situation with all these different straws that we have called wells throughout, whether it be the police basin or whether it be the ground round or wherever we're out there. I've had some neighbors that have lost their well when somebody moved in next door. So it is on the commissioner's radar as far as trying to limit as much water as these people want to pump out and say, hey, do you really need that much? So we're trying to do that just to make people aware, because I told my wife about 12 years ago after I came back from Leadership Idaho Ag in South Idaho, I said, water's going to be the new gold. So it's one of those, I don't think it's this forever resource, and we need to be aware of it. And us on the county commission have been trying to address that at least for the last 2 years, if not before, since I've been on them. So it's definitely on our radar, and we're keeping track of it. Thank you.
Okay, Jason?
It is a tough question to answer based on being on aquifers. With the aquifer declining, we have to look at other options. If we're developing, who knows how much water it takes to make concrete? Does anyone know how much it takes in here? It depends on how much square yardage you're pouring. So if we're doing all this development, we're using all that water. We use water to water the plot of land when we're working it. I've worked in construction. Water is an important resource, and we're going to have to look at ways to maybe do a pipeline. It's going to cost money, but if a pipeline from the Snake River, pump it up, there we go. But it's a tough question to answer, because we have no idea when that aquifer is going to go dry. You have, I know people on Moscow Mountain that have a 400-foot well. We're 2,500 feet above sea level. So 2,500 feet above sea level means that water is going to go down and down towards sea level. So those wells are going to go dry at some point. So we have, county commissioners do have to figure out how we're going to do that. It may take county funds to work with other counties to do a pipeline. That's an option. We have to pump it, or we're going to have to get it brought in. But it's definitely something to think about in the future.
Okay, thank you. So I've had a suggestion for us to change the order in which we answer questions, which I was thinking about too. So, yeah. Okay, so starting with our sheriff. How do you support women in law enforcement, and explain how successful you've been? I thought that would be a good one to start with you, since you're in place.
That's wonderful, thank you. I love women in law enforcement. They bring a lot to the table. Latah County's never had 3 on patrol that I ever knew of ever. I have 3 on patrol. I have one right back here, actually. She does an outstanding job for me. She loves her job. She loves the people. She's been promoted. She just does good. If you ever get on my website, I have a lot of women that work for me, and they do a really good job. I promote that. But save your clapping. But anyway, I think they're outstanding. They bring a lot to the table. I'll tell you a couple things they bring. On a domestic, if I go to a domestic with her, how many women want to talk to a guy who just got slapped or kicked or whatever, or yelled at even? So I have a woman that can actually talk to that woman, and she feels more comfortable. That's one big thing I really like. And children, women are usually more nurturing. I hate to say that, because I feel like I'm nurturing with kids. I love kids, and I don't know. I don't follow them around all the time to see how nurturing they are with kids. But let's say they get to this problem where there's kids. Women can nurture the children better, I think, in most cases. Not every cases, because some of us have a big heart for kids. But anyway, I I love having women in patrol, and in my office, they do a really good job. I have never had a problem with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chris?
Okay, as far as working with women on patrol, I work with the Idaho State Police, and we had quite a few female troopers. Okay, and they were all fabulous. I went to Idaho Academy. I think we had 3 females, all of them graduated. When I worked for Latah County, we did not have any females on the road at the time. We did have a couple of females in the jail. But as far as working with them and how I feel about them, I do believe they bring a little bit different dynamic to the table, especially when it comes to how they approach conversation. Most males, unfortunately, the type A personality, like to drop the hammer pretty quick. Most of the females that I worked with tend to ease their way into a situation and usually have a little bit more luck with somebody who's already what we like to call spun up a little bit. But at the same time, I think it enhances them to work together, because I think that both the female and the male working together, they kind of play and learn from each other in that. Okay, because there are a lot of things that men do in law enforcement that are helpful, and there are a lot of things that women do in law enforcement that are helpful. But we need to be able to work together and learn from each other. As far as how I feel about them in different situations, I think they're great in detectives. I've known many women that actually probably are better detectives than most of the men I've ever worked with. Why? Attention to detail. You know, my wife says I use my man eyes all the time, right? Go get this. Where's it at? I don't see it. It's right there. Okay. Most women pay close attention, whereas men tend to be in a hurry. Okay. It's a fact. Okay. So I don't have an issue with it, and I would promote it 100%. In fact, it's not something that would even be a question for me. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Right on time. James?
Women in law enforcement is one of the most incredible pieces that you can have. In Moscow, we had, the most we've ever had was 4 female officers. We have one of them right now in detectives, and one is at the academy. They bring so much difference to the table when you're out on serious calls. Most of the time, they can communicate better. Let's just be honest. They're calmer a lot of times, and you'd be crazy not to support women in law enforcement. I think I have to agree with both the sheriff and Mr. Middleton. It is a needed piece in every position that we have, from patrol to detectives. Women can talk to kids and rape victims. You know, not very many women want to talk to a male officer after they've been involved in a rape, but they will sit down and talk to a female officer. It's a lot more comforting, and it's a lot easier on the victim. So we need to make sure we promote that. We also need to promote that we send them to very specific training. There is specific trainings for women in law enforcement who are taught by women in law enforcement who have been there, who have done it for years, and understand the struggles that women may go through, because typically law enforcement, just like the military, is a male-dominated field, but we need to make sure we promote that. We need to make sure we make it easier for them to get into our organizations and into our ranks.
All right, thank you. Okay, our next question, and we'll change it up the direction this time as well. So Jason, we'll start with you on this one. At the time of the League's newest poverty study, Latah County did not have a child care ordinance. Would you advocate for establishing county standards for child care facilities here? And rather than yes or no, what would you do about that?
I would talk to my wife. She works at the Center of